What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Show. I'm your boy, Matt Soups Ramos, and today we're going to continue the trend of talking about everything going on in the world of entertainment. I would like to bring on my co-host. I got my boy, Editor Gio. He's back in the cut. He's munching.
God bless everyone's day.
God bless everyone's day. So, guys, this has been a pretty stacked week for movies. Overall, what a great month it has been for movies in general. We had Creed 3, we had Scream 6, we had Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and now this weekend we have Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves, and John Wick 4. So this week I got the chance to watch Dungeons & Dragons, John Wick 4, and a movie called Air that's coming out on April 5th. So today we're going to be talking about all three of them. Let's start with John Wick 4. John Wick 4, it's now in theaters. I believe everyone can go watch John Wick. And if you can go watch John Wick, then go watch John Wick. Because John Wick 4 is fire. It's, for me personally, it's not my favorite in the franchise. I know a lot of people have been saying, oh, John Wick 4 is one of the greatest action films of all time. It's the best in the franchise. For me, John Wick 1 and I'm still a massive fan of John Wick 1 and 2. But look, John Wick 4, this movie is a masterpiece in terms of the action, in terms of the cinematography, in terms of the lighting. Like the only thing that lacks for me in this movie is like John Wick's specific story. And here's what I mean by that. So in the first two movies, the entire story was about John Wick getting revenge from these dudes who killed his dog, which was a gift from his wife before she passed away. And that to me was so intriguing. That's what I was super invested in. But then with John Wick, when it comes to John Wick 4, the best character, the character that probably has the best story in this movie is a character named Kane, who's played by Donnie Yen. And he is fantastic in this movie. He's basically Daredevil. He's a blind assassin and he's a total badass. And this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And I guess my biggest criticism is that it felt like they could have chopped down a few of the action sequences, because there are literally action sequences in this movie that go on for like 20-30 minutes and they just do not stop. And the story isn't really moving forward because you're just sucked into this action sequence. And the action is great, don't get me wrong. Like, the action is fire. It's very innovative. I would say it's the best installment in the genre franchise in terms of the action. It feels like they literally took all of the tricks they had in their hat and they just pulled them all out for this one. Like, by the end of this movie, by the end of John Wick 4, it feels like this is the crescendo. They could not have gone any bigger in terms of the action, in terms of what they did to innovate this sequel in compared to the others. So John Wick 4, this is a fantastic movie. It's not my favorite in the franchise. I wouldn't call it one of the greatest action films of all time, but I will say this. After watching this movie, when you think of the term the action film genre, you're going to think of John Wick 4. Like, this is an all-time great action film in terms of the action. But for me, in terms of like John Wick's, the particular storyline that was being followed, I thought the other John Wick films were more interesting in terms of the story and the plot. But again, this movie was a fantastic installment to the John Wick franchise. Bill Skarsgård was fantastic as the villain. There's another character who's like a Kingpin-like character, and he's great in the movie as well. Like, he has a great club action sequence that, again, it goes on for like 20-30 minutes, but it's all fire. And then, of course, Keanu Reeves. I mean, Keanu Reeves, we all know what to expect from Keanu when it comes to his type of movies, and when it comes to the John Wick franchise, he shows up, he's at his best. And again, credit to Donnie Yen as well, as he played the character Kane. So all around, I really enjoyed John Wick 4. And I definitely think they couldn't have gone any bigger for this sequel, because it was literally 2 hours and 45 minutes of nonstop action. And the director actually revealed that there was the original cut that he put together and showed the studio was 3 hours and 45 minutes. So even then, they still trimmed a lot of stuff that was supposed to be included in the movie. And even then, it still felt like they could have trimmed more, because like I watched this movie pretty late, and you know, like, again, towards the third act, it's just like, all right, yo, come on, can we get to the final act? Can we get to this final confrontation? Because there was just so much action. But Gio, are you a fan of the John Wick franchise prior? And for you, what stands out to you the most when it comes to John Wick 4? And I guess the things that people are saying online.
So I think when John Wick first came out, Matt, no one really kind of had any kind of like, they just thought it was another Keanu Reeves film until it started getting buzz. And then the second time around with John Wick 2, it really solidified itself as like one of the best action movies. I mean, like the first couple times around, it was like they had something to prove. And I feel like the reason why you felt that way about John Wick this time around is because now all people want is just a bunch of action. Like there's a lot of people who would totally disagree with you. I never seen John Wick 4 yet. But there's a lot of people that would disagree with you because John Wick, people go there just for the action. Like I know a lot of people are going to see that movie and they don't even care about the story. They love that action. There's a lot of people who are going in there is going in there just for the action. Because it seems like, Matt, every time they make a new John Wick, they're beating their own self. They're competing with their self. Like, in terms of what they're doing, like the new things that they're doing with the camera and the new fight, and it's like, it's amazing. But honestly, when I heard that they were making a fourth one, or after the end of part 3, I was kind of like, all right, now it feels like they're kind of just like, what else could they do? Because in part 3, he goes against the whole world. Everyone's after him. He jumps off like a 10-foot building, and he's like a 30, 40, 50-foot skyscraper, and he lands, and nothing happens to him. And I was like, oh, all right. They're starting to go like Fast and the Furious kind of. And I feel like they probably did that a lot in this one as well.
And that's a great point because for me, when it came to the first John Wick movie, I am such a fan of the original John Wick. But what was so good about that movie is that John Wick, the first John Wick movie, actually felt like a realistic action movie. But in John Wick 4, there are some moments where it does feel a little like cartoony. It does feel a little Fast and the Furious-y, where it's like, what I mean by that is that like when it came to the Fast and the Furious movies, they first start off realistic, grounded, and now by the time we're all gonna go in to watch Fast 6 or Fast 6, by the time we all go to watch Fast X, like we already know to expect unrealistic throw physics out the window. Like that's what we've come to expect.
They went to space at this point. It's a meme.
Bro, they went to space with a car that was duct taped. So it's like we don't think of realistic physics when it comes to the Fast and the Furious movies anymore, despite the fact that they started off pretty realistic. Now when it came to John Wick 4, there were a couple of moments in this movie where my eyes rolled a little bit because it was like, dude, he should have been dead. He should have been paralyzed. He should have been dead. But to continue to talk about what I loved about this movie is beautiful in terms of like the way it looks. Gio, it felt like you could have paused this movie at any point throughout its entirety of 2 hours and 45 minutes, and you could have paused it at any moment, and that could have been a poster. Like the way scenes were lit, the setting, and the where fight scenes take place. It was fantastic, bro. Like it was so beautiful to watch. I didn't want to take my eyes off the screen. And if you are a fan that's just going to watch this movie just purely for the action, then you're gonna come out a happy camper because this movie does have fantastic action. And again, it feels like they pulled out all the tricks and they did literally everything they could possibly do in terms of the next installment for the John Wick franchise. But again, for me, the only part that really lacked in this movie was the story compared to the earlier John Wick films. The story isn't bad. It's not like it's not bad. It's just it doesn't compare. The story pales in comparison to the storyline that we saw take place in John Wick 1 and John Wick 2. But again, the action is fantastic. The cinematography, the lighting, the all of the different characters. Like every character in this movie is just a total badass. There's not one character in this movie that sucks. Every single character is fantastic. If you're gonna go watch a movie this weekend, go watch John Wick 4 because this movie is fantastic. But we got to talk about another movie because I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. This movie was a banger, and it's a banger in a different way than John Wick 4. It's what you can come to expect from Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves is an action adventure set in a fantasy world, and oh my gosh, this movie was so much better than I expected. Like, Gio, this felt like for First of all, my immediate thought after watching this movie is this is an immediate franchise. The world that Dungeons and Dragons takes place in, and all of the different things they, I guess, introduced with this movie. Like we need to see a sequel. We need to see a prequel. We need to see just spin-offs. We need to see so much more from the Dungeons and Dragons universe. This is its own universe. This is its own world. But this felt like a fantasy Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, you have a pretty stacked cast with Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, another girl. She was from the first It movie. You also have Regé Jean Page, and Hugh Grant is in it as well. Like, it's just such a stacked cast, and every single character is awesome. I could get a spinoff about all of these different characters, and I would tune in because all of the characters, they do their job. They have a great dynamic. This movie is carried by a great script, and again, you just kind of fall in love with the world of Dungeons and Dragons, and there are just so many different factions that I want to see explored. Another thing too is that this movie looked beautiful. Like, again, this movie is set in a fantasy world, and I don't know, but like it looked gorgeous because the majority of everything we were seeing was CGI. It was green screen, but like it actually looked really, really good. It feels like Paramount put so much budget into this because like the movie itself looked fantastic in terms of all of the special effects, all of the CGI, the colors, just everything, the way it was filmed. And I had a great time with Dungeons and Dragons, and that's another banger to go watch in theaters this weekend as well.
Well, now I'm probably going to see it because I had no kind of expectations for it. I was like, I never played the game. Yeah. I have no idea what it's about. I know it's like a role play strategy game. The only way I really know anything about Dungeons and Dragons is from Stranger Things, when the kids play with it, especially in season 4. So like that's the only time like I really ever knew about Dungeons and Dragons. But even my wife came to me and she was like, let's go see this movie. It looks good. I was like, why do you want to see a Dungeons and Dragons movie? So I kind of like that I'm going in there with low expectations and it's getting good reviews. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what to expect. I haven't even watched the trailer for the thing.
Dude, it's also like, Gio, I think that's like a great family movie to go watch because I know John Wick 4 is like a hard R-rated movie. Like there are some brutal deaths in that film. Yeah. But in terms of like, if you're a dad, if you're a mom who's trying to take your family out to go to the theaters, go watch Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. It's a great family movie. It's really funny. It's very heartfelt. And again, in a similar way to Guardians of the Galaxy, it's just like a story about these like band of misfits that like come together and their dynamic just works. And again, it's just like a really heartfelt story paired with great action, paired with just such a great world. Like, man, like I don't know if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings franchise, but it's like I miss these like big fantasy worlds that just have so much to it. And when it came to Dungeons and Dragons, it like cured it scratched that itch that I had for wanting to see a great big scale fantasy action adventure.
Yeah, it feels like there hasn't been any since like the Hobbit reboot or prequels or whatever they were. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the Lord of the Rings, but it feels like there hasn't been a big fantasy event, or maybe like Game of Thrones, maybe. But like that was a TV show, so like in the movies, I feel like we haven't really gotten that. So I think that's why a lot of people are buzzing up too, because we're all getting a taste of that fantasy flavor again. We're getting that fantasy palette back.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And this was a movie that I wasn't really like excited about. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never played Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Obviously like the cast is stacked and I would definitely go watch this movie, but this wasn't like this going into 2023. This wasn't a movie that was like a must see for me. But then once I got the chance to watch it, it like completely blew me away. And I am going to go watch it again tomorrow, actually. So yeah, Dungeons and Dragons was another one that's fantastic, man. What a great month, bro. What a great month for cinema. Like the movie theaters are stacked right now, guys. So many different options. If you're going in for a hard R, just literally a bona fide action movie, go watch John Wick 4. That's fantastic. And then if you're looking for like a family-friendly action adventure that's awesome in its own right, go watch Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. Now, the next movie I want to talk about is my favorite movie from this bunch. Like, I love all of these movies that we've talked about today, but this next movie is my favorite movie from the bunch, and it's one of my favorite films. I'm going to say right here, it's my second favorite film of 2023 behind Creed 3. And I'm talking about Air. Air is a movie that's coming from Ben Affleck. It is directed by Ben Affleck, and it has a star-studded cast, including Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Jason Bateman, Chris Tucker, Marlon Wayans, and Viola Davis. Star-studded cast, and this film is pretty much the story about how Nike signed Michael Jordan and created the Air Jordan shoes. This is a movie that was like, I was already super excited for because I've grown up a lifelong basketball fan, and I'm a huge fan of Matt Damon and all of the movies he's in. Obviously, a big fan of Viola Davis, and this is just such a star-studded ensemble cast that it got me hyped. So when I got the chance to watch this movie earlier this week, dude, I heard some of the early reviews that came out of South by Southwest, which is a film festival where it debuted, and a ton of people were gassing it up, calling it, the best movie of 2023, one of the best theater experiences they've had. And I'm willing to say here, this is one of the best movies of 2023 so far. I wouldn't say it's the best movie of 2023, but if you agree with that statement, then I wouldn't be opposed to that. I wouldn't argue against it, because this movie is fantastic, man. This movie has so much heart, and it's really impressive because unlike John Wick and unlike Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, this is a movie that doesn't have any action. This is a movie that is literally carried by a great script with fantastic performances and even better dialogue. Like, this is a movie that takes place, and it's literally just people talking in different rooms. It's people talking at the Nike headquarters, at Michael Jordan's house, in a office, in like a press conference office, in like a Nike lab. Like, this movie is literally just people talking in different rooms, but the plot is so intriguing, and it gets you really invested into these characters. And honestly, man, this movie was just so inspiring. It's not a sports movie because, there's not any point in this film where there's like a big sports game or anything like that. This isn't a sports movie, but it carries all of the qualities of a sports movie. It carries that inspiring, uplifting element where by the end of it, by the time you walk out of the theater, you're going to be inspired as hell to go do something, to go like accomplish your dreams and turn your goals into a reality. So, this is a story about betting on yourself. This is a story about taking risks. This is a story about knowing your worth. And I loved it, man. This was one of the movies that I watched that makes me love just movies in general, man. Like, Creed 3 was the other experience that I had where I came out of it and I was just like, man, I just had high expectations for this movie. And when I walked out, it surpassed my expectations. This is another one of those movies. It surpassed my expectations. And it's such a great watch. Again, fantastic cast, fantastic performances, fantastic script. And I recommend everyone to go watch this movie. And another interesting fact here, Gio, is that the biggest thing about the deal that Nike made with Michael Jordan back in like the 80s or 90s, whenever it is that they signed them, the biggest thing that was a part of that deal was that Michael Jordan would be paid like a percentage of the annual sales from the Air Jordan brand. That had never been done in history at that point in time, and that completely revolutionized the way athletes are paid in all sports. So that was the biggest thing that was a part of that Nike deal, was Michael Jordan getting paid a percentage of the overall revenue from the Nike brand. Before that, the athletes would just get paid like, they would get paid like $200,000 a year, and that's it. But Michael Jordan got paid, he got paid again a lump sum of money up front, and then he also got paid a percentage of the overall revenue from the Air Jordan brand. So that completely revolutionized the way athletes are paid in sports. But now, if we take it to the real world, if this makes sense, Air is the first movie in Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's new production company where that production company is actually paying members of the crew a percentage of the overall revenue that the film makes. That has never been done in Hollywood.
Wow.
So we're talking about like the cinematographers, the lighting crew, the hair and makeup designers, the set designers. We're talking about the overall crew. They're all getting a percentage of the overall revenue of this movie, which has never been done in Hollywood. And in a way, it also mirrors the Nike and Jordan deal. The same way that revolutionized the sports industry, what Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are doing with their new production company, Artist Equity, that is revolutionizing Hollywood in its own way. So it's pretty sick to see, man.
Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are not in the discussion enough of like the brothers of Hollywood. They're not in that talk. They're not. In my opinion, they're underrated, bro. Even though they probably have a couple of Oscars under their belt and they have appreciation and everybody loves them, they're not on like the Nolan talk, the Nolan brothers, the Daniel brothers. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're probably talked more about right now. Of course, after that amazing film, but they're probably ranked higher right now after that one movie than the Afflecks are to me, and that blows my mind. Like the Affleck and Damon, they have that brothership, man, because everything that they touch is just gold. I love every movie that they've done together. Everything. Their script writing is freaking insane. They write the best stories. They write novels, man. They're incredible at what they do. And when I seen this trailer for the first time in theaters at Creed 3, I was in Creed 3 and I seen this trailer. I was like, that's gonna be the best movie of 2023. That's gonna be number one. That's gonna be the best movie I ever seen. And it's crazy because I have such high expectations for that movie, and I know it's gonna probably still beat the expectations I have. They're geniuses, bro. Everything they do, they're geniuses. Even with that idea, that's something that should have been done at Hollywood for years now. For years that should have been done. You know what I'm saying? Like, depending, like, a percentage or a stake of the movie. You know what I mean? It shouldn't just go to producers. It should go to everybody. You know, it takes so many people to put a movie together. It could be the most team-oriented thing ever. The most collaborators that you could need is making a big-budget movie. It takes a lot of people to get that done. Like, we're struggling right now just to get clips of the podcast done, or like just two guys that come in front of a camera on Saturday. Sometimes we miss a Saturday, or sometimes we sleep late. We struggle. Those guys have to get hundreds of people on set on a certain day at the same time, and everyone's got to be on page, and everyone's got to come to set happy, and everyone's got to come to set with the same vision. It's tough. And, you know, it's crazy that it hasn't been done. So those guys are just geniuses for that staking idea. They're geniuses in everything they do, and I can't freaking wait to see what they put together, because I know it's going to be a masterpiece. But there's one thing I do want to talk to you about that before we move on to the next thing. And I hear that there's no Jordan in the movie. They didn't want to show Jordan's face in it.
Dude, yeah. So Michael Jordan is not in this movie, even though the entire movie is like about him. And well, Michael Jordan, I will say this: Michael Jordan is in the movie, but you never see his face. And that was actually done on purpose, because the entire movie is made to build up the legend that is Michael Jordan. And, you know, Ben Affleck talked about in a few interviews that there could have never have been anyone to play Michael Jordan, because there's only one Michael Jordan. So he is in the movie, but he, like, you never see his face. And yeah, I think that was definitely the right choice creatively, and it builds him up in the film. You know, like, you see like the back, you see Michael Jordan walking in a hallway, but it's like the back of his head as he's like walking in a hallway, and you're like, dude, that's the GOAT. Like, you see him in a press conference and he's like sitting down, and you just see the back of his head, and you're like it just, the film builds him up. So
They're with the Proud family with it sounds like. The guy from the Proud family, you never see his face.
Dude, there's this, I will say, man, this movie has the best scene in any film I've seen in 2023 so far. Like, Creed 3 is my favorite movie of the year as of right now, but this movie has the best scene in any movie I've seen this year. And man, it's this scene where Matt Damon is giving a speech, and that's all I'll say. But Matt Damon is giving this speech, bro. And literally, I've never wanted to run, like, this speech made me want to run a couple miles after I watched this movie. Like, I'm dying to go rewatch this movie just for that one scene. Like, obviously the rest of the movie is fantastic and it's great, but man, like, there's this one, and you'll know when you watch the movie, you'll know the scene I'm talking about, where it's just fantastic, man, because this entire movie, again, it's set before Michael Jordan ever became anyone. but we all know who Michael Jordan became. So like that adds to your viewing experience as you're watching this film that is set before Michael Jordan ever became the greatest of all time. And Matt Damon's speech in this film, again, you'll know it when you see it. It's fantastic, and it's gonna inspire the hell out of you to get out there and go accomplish your dreams and go be the greatest in any area of your life that you want to pursue.
Be your own GOAT.
Facts, bro.
Be your own GOAT. Bro, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's such a good idea for a movie. I don't know why it took so long for them to make a movie.
I need the next Matt Damon.
Yeah.
I need the next Matt Damon Ben Affleck movie, bro.
Yeah, they're really amazing. Everything they put their hands on turns to gold. They got the Midas touch.
Now to move on to our next topic, because this morning we just got blessed with some new set photos from the set of Joker 2. It's called Joker Folie Deux. The title is like French. I'm not sure how to pronounce the title.
Folie Deux. Nah, I'm just bullshitting.
To all my French listeners.
I'm bullshitting. I don't even know how it goes either.
Yeah, so we got some new set photos from the set of Joker 2, and Lady Gaga is sporting some new clothing for Harley Quinn. And this is like our first look at Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. And yeah, so just judging off of these set photos, it looks like Harley Quinn is being escorted by police to like a courtroom or out of a courtroom. And you can see like a ton of people that are like actually Joker fans, where they're wearing like Joker face paint, Joker masks. Like there are a ton of Joker fans in this crowd, and they're all trying to like get autographs from Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. And judging off of this new look at Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, her fit, it feels like this fit looks like them doing a Harley Quinn costume without doing a Harley Quinn costume, because this is something I could see Harley Quinn wear as like a grounded, regular, everyday Harley Quinn. You know, like if Harley Quinn was going to court and she would have to dress up in like a court attire, this is what I could see Harley Quinn wearing. But when it comes to Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, she's not as grounded as, you know, the Joker Elseworld universe. So she can have her full-on crazy costumes and her comic accurate costumes, and those look fantastic. Like I'm always going to prefer those. But I think Lady Gaga looks fantastic for like a Harley Quinn that's set within this Joker Elseworld. And yeah, Gio, what did you think of the new set photos from Joker 2?
I'll tell you what, man. I think that they're going in a freaking approach that no one is imagining right now. I think they're doing something completely different, man. They're hitting a different vibe, man. Because like after the first movie, I could swear that there will never be a part 2 to this movie because it was just so well done. It was such a perfect, flawless Joker. Look at Joker, a take on Joker that's never been thought of before. No one ever wanted to see that side of him. And when we got it, it was like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? Now hearing that this is a musical and like seeing Lady Gaga, who obviously we all knew she was going to look great as like a Harley Quinn. But just like, I can't imagine. I really have no idea. My expectations are not high or low. It's just a question mark because I don't know what this is going to be. All I know is Todd Phillips gave us something that we didn't even know we wanted with the Joker standalone film. And I think if he wants to take this crazy ass approach with a musical and do crazy shit like what we're seeing in the set photos, like there's one set photo I've seen where I don't even know if Todd Phillips is imagining himself with a bunch of other Jokers, or if it's just like I don't know what kind of scene that is, or if it's fans going crazy. I think Lady Gaga looks amazing, and I think that this movie is gonna be very, very different. It's not gonna be anything like we're imagining. Like I don't think it's gonna be even a Harley Quinn that we're imagining. I think Todd Phillips is gonna put a twist on this in a way that we've never seen.
Dude, seeing Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, that just screams like a Best Actress nomination waiting to happen.
Absolutely.
Like I see it happening. She looks fantastic, and I think she's gonna crush the role of Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie, she will always be fantastic as Harley, but you know, it's like again, Lady Gaga's just gonna be different. You know, just because we got Heath Ledger as Joker, and Heath Ledger will always be goated as Joker, and that performance that he gave doesn't mean we can't have someone like Joaquin Phoenix do his thing, because Joaquin Phoenix was fantastic in his portrayal of the Joker as well. So I think Lady Gaga's going to be fantastic in this role. She looks fantastic, and dude, I'm excited to just get like a trailer or just like something. I'm ready for footage.
Bro, but
Another
listen,
thing too.
she's kind of like Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is kind of like Harley Quinn in real life too. Like at the beginning of her career, especially with those weird ass
No, bro.
outfits and that weird ass personality. Like she had like that weird like vibe. Like at the start of her career, at the very beginning, which she was very like mysterious. She was kind of going like for that Madonna thing. Like so, she kind of has like I feel like if there's any celebrity I could have picked before Margot Robbie to play Harley Quinn, it would be Lady Gaga. So I think it's a great cast. So I think of course she's gonna kill it. Everybody knows it. You know what I mean? It's not even, we all know it's gonna be like a 10 performance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to see her as Harley Quinn. And there was another set photo that came out where it showed a fan sitting, and there was a sign that the fan was holding where it said, "Dent is a clown." So that kind of confirms that Harvey Dent will be involved with Joker 2. Now, whether or not we even see him, whether or not we see him as Two-Face or become Two-Face, that is something we still don't know. But it's cool to see that, dude, Harvey Dent is going to be in this movie and or involved with this movie at some capacity. So yeah, Harvey Dent is going to be in Joker 2, and we got our first set photos of Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. Man, she looked pretty great.
Man, I'll tell you what. I wish in some kind of alternate universe we got all these amazing characters together in one movie.
I've walked back on the idea of wanting to see Robert Pattinson's Batman with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn.
I would have loved to see
just because I love the idea of Elseworlds. And, you know, we got the DCU, which is like the interconnected universe, but I love the idea of Elseworld stories that don't intertwine, that don't cross over.
I love that too.
I think we need more Elseworld stories,
For
man.
sure.
I want more.
I'm happy that we got it, but at the same time, we got such good versions of those characters and the ones that don't connect. And it's like, oh my God, the ones that do connect are not that good. Yeah. And the ones that don't are the best. You know what I mean? So it hurts.
No, I feel you.
It hurts like seeing that Joker in like a Batman movie, like a total like a full blown. I guess, you know, it's kind of hard for them to do another Joker and Batman movie after The Dark Knight. So I really don't blame anyone for not trying to go that route. But damn, man, they're good. They're freaking good, and it would have been sick to see them all in one show.
Yeah, nah, for sure. So with that being said, guys, we're going to round out today's episode of the Let's Go Show. We talked about John Wick 4. We talked about Dungeons & Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves. We talked about Air. That comes out April 5th. And you guys can actually check out John Wick 4 and Dungeons & Dragons right now. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Let's Go Show. Again, we drop episodes every Saturday. So we'll see you guys next Saturday. Make sure to interact with all of our socials all around. And we'll see you guys at the next episode.
Let's